There are some real unresolved mysteries in GTA that were never touched again. Not just some fan-made myths, like Infinite Killer. The Infinity Killer mystery basically revolves around this serial killer who's been leaving these cryptic messages all over Los Santos. The killer uses this infinity symbol as their calling card, and they're obsessed with targeting what they call fake people. Basically, anyone they think is living an inauthentic life in the superficial world of Los Santos. Kind of ironic when you think about it, considering we're talking about a video game, but Rockstar's always been about those meta-commentaries. Here's where it gets wild, though. The mystery isn't just about finding some random Easter egg. Players discovered that there are actually 8 different infinity symbols painted around the map, and each one comes with its own disturbing message. These aren't just decorative either. They're part of a larger narrative that Rockstar weaved into the game's world building. The messages themselves are pretty dark and philosophical, talking about how modern society has lost its way and how people are just going through the motions of life without any real purpose. The killer sees themselves as some kind of twisted philosopher, trying to wake people up by eliminating those they deem as sleepwalkers. It's giving serious unhinged manifesto vibes, which honestly fits perfectly with GTA's satirical take on American culture. The locations of these symbols are spread all over the map too, from the fancy hills of Vinewood to the grittier parts of the city. Each placement feels intentional, like the killer is making a statement about different aspects of Los Santos society. Some are hidden in back alleys, others are brazenly displayed in public spaces. It's like the killer wants to be seen, but also wants to remain mysterious. The community theories around this mystery were absolutely unhinged in the best way possible. People were connecting it to everything from the Mount Chiliad mystery to theories about secret government conspiracies in the game. Some players thought it might be connected to Trevor's character. Others wondered if it was foreshadowing content for future DLC. The speculation was endless. Next, Vice City Gang War. So if you played Vice City back in the day, you'll remember that the whole game is basically Scarface, but with more neon and better music. Tommy Vercetti rolls into town, starts building his criminal empire, and gets caught up in this massive web of rival gangs, all fighting for control of the city. The Haitians, the Cubans, the bikers, the Italians, everyone's throwing hands and bullets at each other, and Tommy's right in the middle of it all. But here's where it gets weird. Throughout the game, you're doing all these missions that are clearly building up to something bigger. You're playing different gangs against each other, making alliances, breaking them, and watching the power dynamics shift across Vice City. The tension is building, the stakes are getting higher, and you're expecting some kind of massive climax where all these storylines come together. And then, nothing. The game just ends with Tommy taking over the Vercetti estate and basically becoming the king of Vice City. Roll credits. But what about all that gang warfare that was supposedly tearing the city apart? What happened to all these power struggles that the entire game was building toward? It's like Rockstar just decided to skip the final act. The most frustrating part is the mysterious lady who keeps popping up throughout the story but never gets properly explained. You know the one. She's connected to some of the shadier deals going down. There are hints that she's playing multiple sides, and she clearly knows more than she's letting on. Players spent years trying to figure out who she really was and what her endgame was supposed to be. Some people think she was supposed to be the final boss or the mastermind behind everything. But we never get that payoff. She just kind of disappears from the narrative without any real resolution. It's like having a mystery novel where the detective finds all the clues but never reveals who the killer is. The gang war system itself was actually pretty innovative for its time. You had these different factions with their own territories, their own beef with each other, and their own reasons for wanting Tommy either as an ally or dead. The Haitians and Cubans had their whole ethnic conflict thing going on. The bikers were doing their outlaw thing, and the Italian families were playing their traditional mafia games. What's really wild is how this mystery has aged. Modern GTA games have much more complex storylines with multiple protagonists and branching narratives, but they generally do a better job of wrapping up their plot threads. Mount Chiliad. Don't think you need to be told this again, but let me brief. So here's the deal. On top of Mount Chiliad, There's this cable car station with a weird mural painted on the wall. It shows a mountain with 3 symbols: a UFO, an egg, and what looks like a jetpack. Below it are these mysterious glyphs and symbols that nobody could figure out. The whole thing screams, "Solve me," but nobody could crack the code. The community went absolutely insane trying to decode this thing. We're talking years of people analyzing every pixel, creating elaborate theories about weather patterns, moon phases, and specific times you need to be at certain locations. Some players thought it was connected to the 3 protagonists. Others believed it was pointing to hidden locations across the map. What made it even more frustrating was that Rockstar kept adding fuel to the fire. They'd drop little hints and updates, add new UFO sightings around the map, and include mysterious sounds and events that seemed connected to the mural. But every time players thought they were getting close to solving it, the trail would go cold. The jetpack symbol was particularly maddening because everyone wanted it to mean there was an actual jetpack hidden somewhere in the game. People spent thousands of hours searching every corner of the map, following elaborate step-by-step procedures that someone on Reddit claimed would unlock the jetpack. Spoiler alert, none of them worked. The egg symbol led to theories about alien encounters, secret government facilities, and hidden underground bunkers. Players found UFOs that would appear under specific conditions, but they never led to anything concrete. Just more questions and more theories. Here's the kicker, though. After years of speculation, most of the community has accepted that there probably isn't some grand secret to unlock. The mural might just be Rockstar trolling us, or maybe it was meant to tease content for future DLC that never happened. Some of the symbols have been connected to minor Easter eggs and UFO sightings, but nothing close to the massive revelation everyone was expecting. Zombie mystery. Let's talk about one of the biggest what-ifs in GTA history, the zombie DLC that never happened. Yeah, you heard that right. GTA 5 was supposed to get its own version of Red Dead's Undead Nightmare, and there are actually hints scattered throughout the game that prove Rockstar was planning something absolutely insane. So after Red Dead Redemption's Undead Nightmare DLC became a massive hit, Rockstar was clearly interested in bringing that same zombie chaos to Los Santos. And honestly, it makes perfect sense. If you can make the Wild West terrifying with zombies, imagine what you could do with a modern city full of skyscrapers, highways, and military equipment. The hints are actually everywhere once you start looking for them. There's this whole laboratory setup in the game where you can find documents and research materials that are clearly hinting at some kind of viral outbreak or biological weapon testing. The paperwork talks about specimens and contamination protocols. Basically everything you'd expect to see in a zombie origin story. In the game's code and unused audio files that data miners discovered, there are literally zombie sound effects, voice lines about infections spreading, and even references to quarantine zones that never made it into the final game. The developers clearly spent time creating assets for some kind of undead scenario. The most obvious hint is probably the whole Fort Zancudo military base situation. The place is already set up like it's preparing for some kind of outbreak. Massive security, restricted access, and all these military vehicles just sitting around waiting to be used. It's like they designed it specifically to be ground zero for a zombie apocalypse scenario. There's also this creepy abandoned house in the middle of nowhere that has all these weird scientific equipment and documents scattered around. Players have been speculating for years that this was supposed to be where the zombie outbreak would start, but instead, it's just this random location that serves no real purpose in the main game. Rockstar apparently had 9 different single-player DLC concepts planned for GTA 5, and the zombie DLC was reportedly one of them. But then GTA Online started making absolutely ridiculous amounts of money, and suddenly all those single-player plans got thrown out the window. Why spend time and resources on story content when you can just keep adding new cars and properties to the online mode? The zombie DLC was supposed to be called something like Infection or Outbreak, according to some leaks, and it would have transformed the entire map into a post-apocalyptic nightmare. Imagine driving through a zombie-infested Los Santos with barricades, abandoned vehicles, and hordes of undead roaming the streets. It would have been absolutely incredible. What makes it even more tragic is that GTA 5's map and mechanics would have been perfect for a zombie survival experience. The huge open world, the variety of vehicles, the weapon systems, everything was already there. They just needed to add the zombies and some survival mechanics, and it would have been Game of the Year material. The community has been begging Rockstar to revisit this concept for years, especially with all the success that zombie games like Left 4 Dead and Dead Rising have had. But instead, we got flying motorcycles and orbital cannons in GTA Online. Don't get me wrong, those are fun. But they're not exactly the same as surviving a zombie apocalypse in Los Santos. Finally, Brad Snyder, the third member of Michael and Trevor's crew who we barely get to know before he's literally 6 feet under. This dude was supposed to be way more important to the story, but thanks to Rockstar's DLC cancellation spree, Brad remains one of gaming's most mysterious characters. So here's what we know about Brad from the actual game. Basically nothing. He's in the prologue heist in North Yankton. He gets shot during the escape, and then we find out later that he's been dead and buried this whole time while Trevor thought he was in prison. That's it. That's literally his entire character arc, and it's supposed to be this massive emotional reveal that drives a wedge between Michael and Trevor. The way Brad is presented in that opening sequence suggests he was supposed to be way more significant. He's not just some random crew member they threw in for the prologue. There are hints throughout the game that he had a deeper relationship with both Michael and Trevor, and that his death was supposed to have more emotional weight than just, oops, your friend's been dead this whole time. The real kicker is that Rockstar apparently had plans for a North Yankton DLC that would have been a prequel showing how Michael, Trevor, and Brad met and started working together. This would have been our chance to actually understand who Brad was as a person, what his role in the crew was, and why his death should matter to us as players. Think about it. In the prologue, Brad acts like he's been working with these guys for years. He knows their methods, he's comfortable with their dynamic, and there's clearly history between all three of them. But we never get to see any of that history, so when he dies, it's just like, oh no, the guy we met 5 minutes ago is dead. There's no emotional impact. The North Yankton DLC was supposedly going to show us the crew's earlier jobs, how they developed their skills, and what their life was like before everything went wrong. We would have seen Brad as a fully developed character instead of just a plot device. It would have made his death in the prologue actually meaningful when you played through it again. What makes this even more frustrating is that North Yankton itself is this incredibly detailed location that's barely used in the main game. You visit it for like one mission, and then it's just sitting there in the game files, completely wasted. It's obvious that Rockstar put a lot of work into creating this environment, probably because they were planning to use it for the DLC. The few interactions we do see between Brad and the other characters hint at some really interesting dynamics. He seems to be the voice of reason sometimes, trying to keep Michael and Trevor from completely losing it. But he's also clearly comfortable with violence and crime, so he's not just the innocent guy who got caught up in their mess. The Michael-Trevor relationship is supposed to be this deep, complex friendship that's been torn apart by betrayal and guilt. But without knowing Brad properly, we're missing a huge piece of that puzzle. He's the third point of the triangle, and we barely understand his role in it. The North Yankton DLC could have also explored the whole FIB conspiracy angle from a different perspective. The fact that Trevor spends half the game talking about Brad and trying to find him shows how significant he was supposed to be. Trevor's whole character arc is partially about processing the loss of his friend, but that emotional journey falls flat because we never really knew Brad in the first place. So there you have it. Brad Snyder, the mysterious third wheel who was supposed to be so much more than just a corpse in a grave. What do you think Brad's story would have been? Would the North Yankton DLC have made GTA 5's story even better? Let me know what you think in the comments. Subscribe to the channel and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.